I was asked this week if I could check the ownership of a piece of land in Elmwood Road, Mitcham. So this is the London Road. We're looking towards Mitcham here, Glebe Court's on the right, and that's the telephone exchange. So let's go into Elmwood Road to show you the piece of land in question. Basically this wooded area here, it appears to be sectioned off, doesn't it? There's a wall on that side, fence on this side, row of houses there. And it's quite a valid question then, isn't it? There seems to be a separate gate to it. Does this piece of land belong to anyone? And if it belongs to the council, then perhaps it could be turned into a pocket park. So I'm going to use a website called the Land Explorer. Currently free, it says when you register. You need to register with your name and an email address. So once you've logged in, you're presented with the map. And at the top there's a search bar. Search by proprietor, which is owner, address or location. So let's go for Elmwood Road, Mitcham. Here we go, there's a location. Let's zoom in. Would be nice if it centered the map of the place I've selected, but never mind, just move it into the middle of the screen and move it about to center it as you please. And here we have Elmwood Road. So the London Road there, Glebe Court over there, that's where we just came in with our Google Street View. So the piece of property we're interested in is this little piece of green here, this green strip here, and it does actually show a boundary, doesn't it? So it's reasonable to assume it might belong to someone. So what do we need to do? Well, if your map just shows you this cogwheel at the top left hand corner, look at, and this menu slides in, this one in the middle, land data. We can choose what kind of land we're looking for. So let's go for land ownership, all properties. Alright. So let's click on this bit here. And it's covered the whole section, including that fenced off area. Let's have a look. So there are 4 land registry titles against this land. It's a nice feature, isn't it? You can just click the copy ID button there and then go over to another window where you might have logged into the land registry and you can do the actual search there. But let's expand the details here, and it shows it's leasehold British Telecom, so BT. This one is also leasehold British Telecom. This one is leasehold by Autumn Window Limited. And this one's the freehold. So basically, that strip of land, for some reason, fenced off, trees and what have you, is a part of the whole plot, which is owned by BT, who have subleased part of it to a window company. So that's the answer to the question. It's not a piece of council land, it belongs to BT. But is there any unregistered land? Well, that's one of the options over here as well, under the layers. Under land ownership, instead of going for all properties, go for unregistered land. Ooh. This is funny. This is the bus street that was a pedestrianised area, and then rediscover Mitcham 10 years ago. We turned it back into buses again, a bus route again. What's this piece of land being unregistered here? Well, if you were brave enough, you could put a tent there in 10 years' time. It's yours. Is that true? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Have the squatters' rights been repealed? They may well have been. The cricket green not being registered did cause the cricket club a bit of a problem. When they wanted to get planning permission for their new score box, the council said, well, we don't know who owns the cricket green. That's because the council were idiots. It belongs to the council, but it just wasn't registered. And the reason I know it belongs to the council was that in 1891, when the Mitcham Common Conservatives were brought into being to maintain Mitcham Common and the village greens of the Cricket Green, the Fair Green, the Upper Green, and Figs Marsh, there wasn't a law requiring land to be registered. That didn't happen until 1925. So you might ask, okay then, so why is Figs Marsh registered? In other words, it's not being shown on this unregistered land map as being unregistered. The reason was either water company, electric company or gas company wanted to run some pipelines underneath it. But you can't grant a way leave to land that's not registered, so it had to be registered by the council. No such thing occurred here for the cricket green, so there never has been a requirement to register it. And why I say the council are idiots is because they're basically looking at the land registry and saying, well, there's no entry for it, it's unregistered. But it doesn't mean it's not owned. Unregistered doesn't mean there is no owner. In this case, the cricket green belongs to London Borough of Merton because they inherited it from the Borough of Mitcham, and they inherited it from the Urban District Council of Mitcham, and they inherited it from the Rural District that was in force at the time of 1891 when the Metropolitan Commons Act for Mitcham came into force, creating the Mitcham Common Conservatives. And sorry for me going on a bit about this, but it's kind of like a thing I get involved in. And there we go. But anyway, so there's other pieces of unregistered land around, and this looks like alleyways between houses, access paths to garages. That probably causes problems when people dump rubbish down there, and you get onto the council and they say, well, it's not ours. Anyway, you can have hours of endless fun with this. The Land Explorer. I'll put a link in the description. If you need information accurate to within the most recent month, there's a more complicated approach. This is a viewer called QGIS. What you need to do is to download a file of freehold boundaries from Land Registry Data Services. It's a set of polygons which define the freehold areas. You need to set up this utility called QGIS, which is open source, it's free to download. But you need to import the downloaded set of polygons. You also need to have a map associated in the background. There's a fair amount of setting up to do. In this particular case, you can see the areas of freehold properties are marked by a black line. You actually had to specify the colour and the size of that line. And you can see here I'm zooming in, and I've chosen to go for a satellite background map. When you actually need to get the information, there's a information button. You click the information button, then click the area that you're interested in. And it marks the area there as one complete freehold plot, but there's no information displayed on the screen. On the right hand side, you basically copy to the clipboard the Inspire ID value for that plot, and then use that in the Land Registry website to look up the details. The Land Explorer is simpler. Thank you for watching. Press the like button if you like the video. Leave comments. Bye for now.